Hi, I'm Glenn Povell from MATnet. We're based in Twizel and we've been operating for almost 10 years now. This business started out between my business partner Hoppy Jaber and myself. Through a very strange coincidence, we did a lot of telemetry work for power stations and substations, and we had a request to build a telemetry system for a fish hatchery, which we found we couldn't get to work due to terrain problems. At a further on in the development of this program, we actually found a hill that we went to that we could use for putting in a repeater. When we approached the landowner for use of this ground, he said to us, come back the next day, and we thought, well, that was a bit of a dead duck. We went back the next day and he said, yep, you can use the ground. What can you do for me? And we said, well, what do you need? And he said, I need internet. This gentleman runs a very large dairy farm and he needed it for his LIC data. So from this access to this property with this farm owner, we built a very simple system. We'd been in touch with friends of ours down south who'd also ran a WISP a couple of years ahead of us, and we got this running and it took off like wildfire amongst the farmers. While we were starting up, we talked to our accountant, who's also on a farm, and her husband was sitting close by, and his advice was quite profound. He, being a farmer, said, don't talk to the husbands, talk to the wives. And was like, well, why would we do that? And he said, well, they're the ones who've got the kids at boarding school to talk to on voice over IP or Skyping. They order the materials for the farm, they order the super, they pay the bank accounts. The farmer just wants to be out on the tractor. Profound advice. It really worked well. So where are we at today? Well, we cover a largish area, which is, for geographically, it's a very low density area, probably the lowest population density area in the country. But we cover from Burke's Pass in the east to the bottom end of the Lindis in the south, up to Mount Cook in the west, and on the southeast we go down to the top end of Benmore Lake. We have 27 repeaters that we maintain for the farm on this area, that all owned by us. We didn't get any assistance from any of the RBI projects, unfortunately. We missed out on those, but we've managed to bankroll and fund this ourselves. So our client base is quite diverse, predominantly farming community. The network was originally built for the farmers with the intention of obviously helping the families, the individual families. That has grown almost exponentially. We've also picked up some large clients, like some forestry work that they need our network for health and safety, for reporting in every day. We look after two very, very upmarket lodges, and these are really upmarket lodges, right out of the area where the only other option is very expensive satellite communication. We look after a very big hotel chain in Tekapo, and that's been an interesting challenge in its own right, having over 130 rooms and possibly 4 to 5 people at a room at a time. It's an interesting demand on our network. We also look after the fish hatchery that I mentioned earlier on when we started, and we do a lot of work with the fish farms. So as well as that, we also provide a lot of community service. We provided the first proper internet connection at high speed for Holden School, which is a farm school across at Holden Farm, and that was a huge advantage for the students who hadn't been able to get that sort of access previously. We provide connectivity for search and rescue in the area, and that is particularly useful for the Coast Guard people when they can actually do real-time tracking of their vessels on the lakes. So some of the fun we've had with this project has been the area in which, the environment in which we operate in. We have some very large flat areas on the Mackenzie Basin itself, and then we've got some really steep cut-off valleys. One is almost a total gun barrel going up the Ahuriri Valley. So some of these challenges have been quite interesting. In the summer we can get to 38 degrees Celsius, which is quite warm, dry, very low humidity. Winters we can go the other way, and we've had minus 20 on some of our sites. So this has resulted in some early experimenting. We lost several battery banks in the very beginning of this project due to freezing and damaging the batteries. The solution came about in a discussion with a farmer one day, and he said, well, why don't you use an old fridge? We've now got a joke when we go around the farms, all the old farmers dog tucker freezers are being offered to us, and we've had to say, well, thanks guys, we've got enough freezers now. But what it does is it allows the battery to cool down slowly and warm up slowly, rather than this massive drop in temperature at night and then warm up too quickly during the day. And since we've done that, we've actually rescued, or not, we've actually not lost any more battery banks on our solar sites. One of the other things we've done with our solar system is we've gone away from using the scaffold pipes and clamps that originally we tried. We've gone to using wooden posts buried in the ground low down, and this has prevented a lot of wind damage. We did have a windstorm several years ago, which was about a 100-year event. It took out some pines on the associated farm that had been there for 120 years, and it managed to pull one of the solar panels out and wrap it around another one, which is not a good experience. But what we've learned from that is we talked to an old Southland farmer who showed us a nice way of bracing the posts when we had managed to dig into the rock and the ground, of bracing them to stop them being pulled out in the wind. So by using low access, we keep the windage down. Does pose another challenge if we get heavy snow, that we've got to make sure we don't get a snow build up underneath it. So we try and keep the front end of them clear so that the wind can blow the snow away. What's good about being a WISP in this area? Well, why do we like doing it? It's the area. A bad day in the hills is better than a good day in the office, a lot of people say, or a friend of ours always uses that term. We get up into some really remote areas. Some of our sites are up at almost 2,000 meters above sea level, and we get some spectacular scenery. We also get to work with some amazing people we would never have encountered previously. Some of the farmers, I recall one incident with a farmer where we turned up and we needed a tree trimmed, and she turned up with a chainsaw, and I said, what are you doing? Well, she said, if you get him to do it, he'll prune it at ankle level, so I'll prune the tree for you. But that's the sort of response we get. These people are brilliant to work with, really helpful, really friendly. We've turned up at a farm on one occasion and been given breakfast. And it's like, no, we only just come to fix a radio. No, you're going to have breakfast with us before you do anything else. So it's really the people interaction and the happiness when you give them a good connection. They get high speed. One occasion we put a connection in for an accountant who lives on a farm, and she said, oh, I don't want to do an update now because it used to take 20 minutes with a previous vendor. We said, just try it, please, while we're here. I know it's Friday afternoon, and the whole thing took about 40 seconds, and she couldn't believe the update to the IRD website. She was ecstatic. So what's the future for us? Oh, the future for MATnet we see is not ending at just providing the service. We think we're on the pinnacle of where we're at. If a business needs to stay in the game, we've got to develop, and we think the future for this is going into Internet of Things.